This presentation will cover the Chapter Officer Update, or F7. The F7A, or Federation Officer Update, is similar. There is a lot of information to cover, so this will take a while. Please be aware that all changes made on this form are made to the database immediately. If you are an outgoing officer, we recommend that you change your position last. If you change it first, and you are not listed as another officer, you will not be able to make any other changes. You should update your officer information at least once per year. Only key officers have access to the F7. If you have any questions about what a key officer is, or who has access, then go to the main Officer Resources page. Click on the link shown above the red arrow. This has the most up-to-date information about access. This is the top portion of the main OAM menu. Click on the F7 Update button to change chapter and officer information. If you do not see this button, then you are not authorized to use the F7. This is the basic F7 display. We will go through each column. The Instructions button will bring up a text file with information about filling out the F7. Clicking on the Member Roster link will give you a roster of chapter members. This is not as detailed as the membership roster report off the main menu, but it will provide you with the member ID of a new officer. Rather than attempting to hide all of the personal information, only the top portion listing the columns is being shown. It has just enough information to determine the member ID. Many people write down the names and member IDs that they intend to change so that they will have a list before you begin. Returning to the officer roster page, notice that the officers, their titles, and the position codes are listed. If a position is not filled, then it will not be shown. To the right of the position information is the status of the member. This will almost always be active. As usual, personal information under member ID and name is hidden. The last update field lets you know the date and type of activity for the last update. As you can see in this example, some were updated and others were deleted. Because a chapter can have multiple chapter other officers, you will notice the action is more often a delete than an update for these officers. Clicking on the text in the last update field shows you the date and the member ID of the person doing the last update. Now this is what you will be doing most often, clicking on the update and delete buttons on the far right. Please remember that the data is updated in real time. If you are the secretary of a chapter and recent elections brought in a new president and a new secretary, then don't update your position first. Once you update the secretary position, you lose access to updating the F7. After you click on the Update button, you will see something like this. Remember when we suggested that you may want to write down the member IDs for those officers who change? It may be easier to have the member IDs of the new officers before you start. All you need to do is to enter the ID of the new officer. Most positions only allow one officer at a time. There are a few, such as the other officer position, that allow for multiple people to have the same position. If you have one of the other officer positions and want to add a second, then you should not choose Update. It will replace the existing officer. If you did not get the member IDs of the new officers before you began, then you can use the member search to find them. Enter the last name of the new officer using capital letters. Note that the navigation buttons changed to the older style navigation buttons. Once you enter the member ID, you will need to click the Verify button. This will alert you if the name and member ID you entered do not match. If a position is no longer filled, or you are removing an officer from a position that allows for multiple officers in the same position, then use the Delete button. Pressing the Delete button will bring up a confirmation page. This is what you will see when you press delete. You can click on cancel to stop the action and you will be returned to the F7 page. If you click on delete, then the officer will be removed. The Add Position button will allow you to do what it says, add a position. After selecting Add Position, you will see this screen. Click on the down arrow shown above for a list of the positions and select one. In this case, position code 15, Other, has been selected. Click on Continue to go to the next page. This is the next screen you will see after selecting Continue. Enter the member ID. Note that the Verify and Member Search buttons are the same as we discussed on a previous slide. Returning to the main F7 web page, the Chapter Dues button allows you to change the dues for your chapter. Enter the new amount here. Please note that changes to chapter dues may require a bylaws change. This is important. If a non-member searches for a chapter, they will see this information. Be sure it is current. Note that you could enter the meeting days, such as the first Monday of the month. You could also enter exceptions, such as no meetings in December. If your chapter has a web page, you may want to direct people to that rather than repeating your meeting time here. This way you only have to change one location when meetings change. With newer members using Facebook a lot, a chapter Facebook page is good if it is maintained. Clicking on the History button gives a history of officer changes. You may want to check this before changing data. You may see two reports when you select the History button, although don't be surprised if you only see one report. The reports are for changes by the chapter and changes by headquarters, and they differ slightly. This shows changes made by chapter officers. The date is the date of the change. The description describes the change. The rest of the columns are described on the slide. The abbreviation POS is for position. This shows changes made by headquarters personnel. If you mail an F7 to headquarters, you will see this report. The date is the date of the change. The chapter repeats the chapter number. The description describes the change. The rest are described on the slide. If you made any changes, please click on the Save an Email button so people are notified of what you did. At this time, the email will be sent to the chapter president if another officer does the F7. Please remember, the reports change all of the time. If you see an error or out-of-date information in this presentation, please use the NARF website to contact your CAB representative. There is a link to a document on the OAM documentation page that explains how to contact a CAB member.